From Studio 3 at Buzz TV, it's The Horse's Mouth with Tom McManus.
All right, welcome into another edition of The Horse's Mouth here at Tommy Max, of course, at my bar, where everybody is welcome to have a seat and get a chance to tell their story. It's Campo's Corner time with the ghost of Coach Campo. He'll be back next week, but he's here in spirit. And I tell you, who's here in person is my good friend Spinner Howland, all the way in from Australia. And I tell you what, I don't know if it's God working or intervention or what, but this segment is perfect for him because we're going to talk mental health and behavioral health. And I'm so glad he's here. And so is Edisa Shirley from Clinic Mind. Let's welcome them both in. Hey, Edisa, how are you? Welcome. My man Spinner. How you doing?
Yeah, good
It's meant to be. You know what I mean? It's meant to be.
You got me twitching again. Okay.
That's right. Well, good to see you. Cheers.
Yeah,
both
cheers,
of you. Thanks for being here.
Very nice
Really
to meet you.
appreciate it.
Cheers.
So tell us about Clinic Mind. Tell us about your background, and I know we're going to get into some mental health and behavioral health.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So I've been in behavioral health for over a decade. Actually started as an educator here locally. I worked at the Exceptional Student Education Department at the local high school. And that was kind of my first touches of in the behavioral health. And then became a clinician, a leader, an executive, a board member, and now a consultant.
Very cool.
So I've been in this space for quite some time. I'm a chief mental health officer for Clinic Mind, which we've been around for about 25 years. And in simple terms, we provide solutions to behavioral health practices, tech solutions, anything from EHR, RCM, which is revenue cycle, credentialing, AI documentation, but also we are a trusted partner for them as they are trying to grow. And we know that we need to help these practices to grow as there is a large demand for the services.
No doubt. I mean, mental health is everywhere. You know, you played rugby forever. Right? I played ball forever. Like, how would you say your mental health overall? I mean, obviously you made it all the way from Australia. You remembered the address and you're here, so you're doing pretty good. But
yeah, I know. The drive over was brutal, though. It got really wet. So, no, look, you're right, though, Tommy. And I think our generation, at some point, maybe we didn't recognise some of the stuff that is now classified as mental health, but it was also the influences on us from the generation before us that were our mentors and our coaches in you and I, our world. There was almost that masculine, hey man, just get up and keep going.
Suck it up and deal with it.
Being, you know, suck it up. It's probably a question I have for you. Look, we all social media, right? That's a lot of people are social media is somewhat around the mental health space. And without you getting into that, other than social media, what else are you seeing in the workplace that is kind of defining that mental health area? Like what are people doing now in this modern day of technology and the workforce that is kind of a trigger that's not good for your mental health?
You know, I don't think
TikTok. Video.
Much has changed besides, like you mentioned, social media. Looking at other people's lives and comparing ourselves to others' snips of their lives that they choose to show us. So that is huge, which back in the days we didn't have that, right? You didn't really know, you only knew what your neighbors were doing because you were peeking through a window. But now you have access to everyone's lives, and not their lives, but their highlights of their lives. And that is making a lot of people anxious, insecure, and some feel in a way depressed because, you know, my life doesn't look that way. You know, it's just, I work hard and go to bed and take care of my kids. I'm like, that's boring. And then I see someone on social media, I'm like, whoo, they're traveling and they're doing all these cool things. And I think that has a lot of pressure on us in our self-confidence.
You talk about old school. I mean, the kid with the ants in his pants, right? Well, we had that growing up. Like, kid that couldn't sit still in class. You know, but he had something else, that ADHD or ADHD, whatever it is, that kind of thing. But we were just, just can't, Jimmy can't sit still. It's no big deal. He'll be fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with him, but he'd be sitting there twitching. He couldn't just sit still and pay attention, right? I had a little bit of that, not to that regard, to that extent. But talk about PTSD, because I think a lot of people And look, I used to say, hey, let's save it for the soldiers, the guys that are women that are in battle that really have that. I think my father had it as a World War II veteran that was never diagnosed. But I think he had some of that. But PTSD comes in a lot of different forms, right? Yes. Your career's over. What do I do next? Do I stay upset about it and get in this depression, or do I say, okay, I'm going to learn from what I, did, and I'm going to go to, you know what I mean? But talk about that and how that affects mental health and how it unstabilizes us, I guess.
Yeah, and that's a good point. PTSD, when we talk about PTSD, most people think war. Mm-hmm. And then coming after a war, which, that is severe PTSD. Of course, yeah. But PTSD can also be your kids leave.
Right.
Now you're an empty nester.
A breakup.
Correct. A breakup. And, especially with men, it was never masculine to talk about mental health. And we did not see many men talk about what they're struggling with because it was just suck it up. You're fine. Right. What do you mean? You're good. Keep going. And we've seen a shift. We really have. Like after COVID, we have started normalizing not just PTSD, but mental health disorders and talking about different mental health disorders and how to treat them because suicide rates have gone up. Yeah, for sure. And then, so we would just see, someone committed a suicide, but nothing was wrong. Right. Everything was fine. An athlete, you see that in sport. Everything was fine. He's a celebrity. He has everything. Well, the game ended, just like we talked about prior to this show. Game ends. What now? You can't play anymore. Your life is completely changing. And that is also we can see PTSD after those cases as well. So PTSD is not only severe trauma caused by some severe instances. It could also be your
everyday life.
Correct. It can also be just your sports career ended. That's big. It might not look big, but it is.
Let's wrap up with this because anxiety's big, kind of flows into everything. When is it, like I grew up, and you get anxious, like you have anxiousness, but when is it, how do you know how do you tell the difference between anxiousness and having anxiety over something that you just can't overcome? How do you, and I know I'm not talking the severe, the severe. Yes. Can't get out your door, can't go compete, it just is too much for you. I get that. I'm not talking about that, but more towards the middle, like...
When is it diagnosable? So it is diagnosable when it impacts your functioning in multiple settings. Okay. So if you're just feeling a bit anxious, but you're still working, you're still doing what you're supposed to be doing, that is not diagnosed anxiety. Okay. We diagnose it when we notice that you can't function in school, at work, at home. And when we see that over multiple settings, that is when it becomes diagnosable.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and some anxiety is actually good because that pushes us to become better. That gives you those nerves, like, I want to do well.
Before games, I would always be anxious. Yes. Always. I couldn't eat. I wouldn't eat it before game.
As a species, there are certain things that we're faced with that it's human. We're meant to have anxiety because we're meant to define that fight or flight instinct. You're meant to be a bit, I'm not sure.
Correct.
But when it gets to the point where you can't recognize and overcome what's causing your anxiety, then you got anxiety.
Correct. Sure. And you can't go to play the game, right? So if you're just feeling that anxiousness, but you're still going into the game, is the moment you go in, it's gone, right? It's like an interview, right? Yeah. You feel nauseous, and then you go in. Yeah, but if that is preventing you to go out there, now that's an issue.
Then you should be getting looked at. Okay. Yes. Edisa, thanks so much for being here, man. I'm really glad you signed up to be on the show. Spinner, it was meant to be, dude.
Yeah, it was
meant to be. You've had more hits to the head than I have, I think. You rugby guys, you guys hit a lot.
We're fine.
It's just anxiousness, man.
Exactly.
So I got to answer my pants. It's no big deal. All right, make sure you check out Edisa's profile. You'll see all that she's into and all that she's doing. You'll see this conversation and thousands of others. Just go to the dailynewsnetwork.com website and you'll see it all right there. So until next time, hey, take care of your mental health. It's seriousness. We're joking around. We're having laughs and whatnot. but we know it's a serious issue. So like Edisa just said, hey, if it's stopping you from living your everyday life, then you need to maybe go out there and try to get some help. Until
My name
next
is
time,
Todd
stay
Marshall,
safe
and I
stay
own
cool.
all
And
dry
we'll see you
services
right here
in Southeast
on the Horse's
Jacksonville.
Mouth.
We serve
Cheers.
all of Northeast Florida. Every day our business is doing the more mundane, but yet sometimes catastrophic issues. These can be plumbing leaks, they can be sewage backups. A bathtub overflows, somebody leaves the sink running. So we have a 24/7 response. If you call us, you're going to get a live person, and you try to get out there as quick as possible so that we can minimize the damage.